Welcome to the podcast, and today I have the pleasure of having Mr. James Tremaine joining me. How you doing, man?
Amazing, thanks. Yourself?
James, I love your energy, man, and I can't wait to share this podcast with our listeners because I first met James' team when James came over to one of our seminars. He travelled over from Ibiza, where he now lives, and he came to men's business. And this guy walked in full of energy, full of charisma and charm, and he really is an expert at what he does. And I started following his journey, and I really wanted to get him on this podcast because for two reasons: is his own personal transformation. James, I really want you to share about that. And then equally, as he's a transformational coach who focuses and uses the breath and lucid dreaming, it's a little bit different. I love that. So many people using different tools. Not only is he a great coach, but he's also got some mega tools that help people move the needle quite quickly. So, James, welcome, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate you giving me the time to be here, man. And it was great to meet you. Yeah, however long ago it was, about 6 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, dude. So like, even since we met, like I've been, you share on Instagram about your journey. Take me back there. Tell me what was going on in your life before you became a transformational coach. Because I've seen the pictures, but I think our listeners would really benefit from understanding where you were.
Okay, so I'll have to take you back around 9 years ago. I was living in Essex. I was living with my mum at the time. I was 20, and I had no plans to ever leave to travel. Right, I was quite happy. I was managing a bar in Essex. I was an assistant manager at 20 years old, so I'm buzzing. I'm making good money at the time. I'm managing a bar. I'm responsible for people who are a lot older than me. I'm thinking, yeah, great. I'm happy, and my plan was just to manage this bar, keep working until I eventually own the bar or own my own bar. And then that was it. I was going to live in Essex, no plans to ever go traveling. My idea was traveling was going to Magaluf or to Zante or whatever with the boys. And yeah, no plans to ever travel. And then one day I went to sleep. I went to sleep at night and had this dream. had I didn't know what it was, but I was in a jungle. I was on a train with friends, and I can't tell you what happened, but something inside of me just lit up. Something inside my mind and my body just completely changed. And yeah, I woke up in the morning. This euphoric rush of energy come through me, and I went downstairs to my mum and I said, "Mum, I'm going traveling." And she was like, "Yeah, of course. I've never said anything about this." And yeah, this feeling, this whatever it was, stuck with me for 3 months solid. Quit my job, booked a flight to go to Australia, to Thailand, to Southeast Asia, one way ticket on my own. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't tell anyone that I was leaving because of a dream, because I was thinking people are going to think I'm nuts, right? I mean, listen, I thought I was nuts at first, because who wakes up one morning and says, oh, okay, I'm going traveling because of a dream? And I was like, whatever this is, I'm just going to follow it. All of my mates at the time were telling me I'm crazy. Like, I'd sit at the pub with them and they'd say, like, I'm crazy and all of this. And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't know why, but something greater than me is telling me I've got to take this leap. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So booked this flight, and then just got on the flight, quit my job, sold my car, and then this took me on this 9 year transformational journey. Basically, I mean, at the time I was doing a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs. I got into cocaine, ecstasy, all of that sort of stuff quite early. So and I was drinking a lot, partying a lot, eating a lot, and that carried on. That carried on to my time in Australia. So yeah, when I travelled Southeast Asia, I travelled Australia. I lived in Australia for 4 or 5 years. I went through, I think, in the 9 years, I've gone through 30 different, no, I think 25 different jobs in 30 different countries in that space of time. I was just, I couldn't, I hated spending longer than a year at a job. All of the jobs never really satisfied my soul. And I was just like, I'd spend a year there, I'd be like, this ain't for me. I'm not giving back to the world, and something just wasn't right. So yeah, in that process, there was a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, and that ended up with me putting on 30 kilograms more. I would end up being 105 or 110 kilograms at my fattest, man boobs, belly, all of that sort of stuff. And I was, yeah, I think one of the changes there was my friend. One of the pictures that we put on Facebook at the time. One of my mates at the time said to me, "Wow, you look you look terrible, mate," and messaged me, and it hurt. It hurt a lot of the time, um, and it took me still another 6 months or so to actually change it from there. But yeah, I mean the jobs I went through in that time, I was selling club crawls. I traveled to Vegas to work in Vegas. I drove pizzas around Sydney. I just managed bars in Sydney. I did labouring, so there's a lot of different jobs, all to then end up in this process of transformation. Where one day, January the 2nd, I was 2 big nights out, and I was like, I felt horrendous after these 2 nights out, and something just said to me, "Okay, I need to sort my life out." I was 24 or 25 at the time, and I was like, "I need to change." And one of my mates had told me about this ketogenic diet, and he said to me, "Yeah, some people." He said,
Let's slow down a second there, James. Just want to jump into the next part. That's like what there's even in just what you've shared already. So kind of you were not feeling healthy. You were looking for your purpose by the sounds of things, and you were trying different jobs, and you couldn't find what you were looking for, right? How did you feel going through that? Like, because when I see you now, obviously the conscious, I met you when you'd had a massive transformation, and it's hard for sometimes that when I'm interviewing people on these podcasts, I'm like, wow, I don't, I can't imagine you being like that. What was going on for you while you were going through that part of your life?
yeah, so it was really unconscious way of living, and it was a lot of hiding any of my emotions and feelings through negative vices, to be honest. Any traumas that I had in the past, or um, like my childhood, like my mum and dad broke up when I was young, so there was a lot of uncertainty when I was young. So there was a lot of dealing with all of that and hiding that through drink, drugs, alcohol. I tell you what, literally any vice you could think of, I'd have it. Sniffing gears, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, uh, eating loads of food, all of it. Right, I had it all. So it was it was. Although on the outside people would think, James is this happy-go-lucky kind of guy. On the outside, yeah, I'd be there on the booth selling club crawls, and on an outside, I looked, yeah, nothing wrong with this guy. But ultimately, I would literally go back to finish the night or finish the day, and grab, I'd literally go to 7-Eleven, grab a big share bag of crisps, a litre of Coke, sweets, get high, eat that, and try and forget about my problems. And I'd have this internal chatter in my mind, which would say, "Don't worry, tomorrow you'll change. Tomorrow you'll change. Tomorrow you'll change."
Oh,
And
wow.
that went on for
Yeah.
years and years and years. And I'd sit there eating that packet of crisps, and I'd be like, "Nah, tomorrow I won't change." And then the same thing would happen. The same thing for years, mate. And then I'd wonder why I was getting fat.
Yeah, I bet so many people can identify with that mindset of, oh, do you know what? I'll start tomorrow. I think that it, it's almost like our dreams, everything, our actions, our opportunities all exist outside of the moment. And I can see in my life where I've pushed action into the future. And I can, if you're listening in, that's a real, real key mindset. I think that James is talking about there is like, oh yeah, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. I'll start Monday. And so you got on to share about this. Like, so that was the kind of where you were. So if you were to dial back to that kind of moment where you're like, do you know what, this has to change. Tell me about
Yeah, so it was January the 2nd, and I had 2 big nights out, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and I was in Australia. And I mean, I'd just gone partying, usual on MDMA. Went to a party, and I got so wasted that I don't remember what happened that night. Now, this isn't unusual. This wasn't unusual. This happened most nights, right? But the next morning, I'd messaged a friend. I was out with a couple of friends, and I messaged them all, "How was last night?" Anyway, one of the women I was out with, she was like, "Oh yeah, don't you remember?" And I was like, "Don't I remember what?" And she was like, "Yeah, you tried to kiss me." And I was like, "Oh yeah." Like this isn't unnormal. Like I'd been rejected a million times before, but at some reason this just was the top of the iceberg. And then that next morning was January the 1st, and I went over to Byron Bay to see a friend and carried on drinking to forget about that. And then the next morning, woke up in the morning, we did a whale watching tour. Oh my god, I've never been so sick in my life. I was on this whale watching tour. I've got a picture of it somewhere, and I'm throwing up everywhere. I'm throwing up everywhere, and then sat on this bus going back from Byron Bay to Surfers Paradise, and I was like, I'm not drinking again. I said, I'm not drinking again. And at the time, my mates were doing this diet, and I was like, I've tried so many diets. I've tried to go to the gym so many times, and it never ended up working. And I was thinking, yeah, this I'll give it a go just because it's my mate, and he started this Instagram page which was blowing up. So I was like, all right, let me try this diet out a little bit. And yeah, started to cut out the sugar, cut out the refined sugar, cut out all the junk food, started adding intermittent fasting. I started to really learn about what I was putting in my body instead of just taking it from society, friends, family. And then literally 6 7 weeks later, I started to like lose weight. I started to feel better, and then I started to see an ab. I'd never seen an ab in my life. I was like, wow, something's working here. So whatever I was doing, it was working. And then all of a sudden, it just started to shed. I remember when I first started to go out running, I had so much pain. I had joint pain in my knees at like 25. I couldn't run. I couldn't do one sit up. I was like, all I want to do is just to do sit up. And I vividly remember being in the gym, and one guy actually came up to me and he was like, "Oh, you're doing really well." Didn't even know the guy, but just that little bit of boost from some random stranger to say, "Yeah, you're
Oh
doing
wow,
well.
yeah,
Why are you
yeah.
on this journey?" I was like, that gave me more boost and more boost, and yeah, 6 months it took me 6 months to go from 100 and I mean 105 was what I looked at it, which was 2 weeks into training. So it was probably like 110, maybe more. And then that went down to at its lightest, yeah, 70 kilograms or 75 kilograms I got down to. And that just put me on this realization that if I what I've been taught about what I'm putting in my body is wrong, that put me on this snowball of like relearning things again. I was trying to learn. I hadn't read a book for since school, so I got right back into learning, and I started to read all about Stoicism and Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I was getting it all into these books, and then literally my mind just was blown wide open, and that just put me on this different trajectory because now I'm fit and healthy. I'm thinking more clearly, and yeah, that was actually another transition point where I had to leave Australia. But now I'm coming back to England, and I left being quite overweight and fat, and now I was coming back to England 5 years later as a healthy person. So
Wow, wow, yeah. And what do you think about um, leaving the UK was the biggest change for that?
I would highly recommend it for everyone to leave their leave their hometown. I mean, I can't believe how my dad did say it to me at the time, but it just broadens your horizons and opens your mind beyond levels which you can't get without leaving your hometown. And I still see it at the moment. If I ever go back to my hometown, I've still got the same friends down at the same pub, sniffing the same gear, and that'll be like that until until the day I die, most probably. And it's everyone I've spoken to, everyone who's left and gone traveling, especially on their own as well. I think going with a friend, you can be a bit more isolated, but going on your own, you're forced to meet people, and you're forced to see new cultures and taste new foods, and the responsibilities on you. So yeah, to do that at such a young age for me was one of the most amazing thing, I think.
Mm. Yeah, because were you always like confident and outgoing and like even like at that point of your life, or is that something that came on more as you left home and you went traveling? Like, because you know, you seem to me that like there's a natural confidence and uh, energy that you've always had? Is that something that you would like if you look back into your mid 20s? Did you have that still?
I think that's been a bit of a roller coaster, you know, um, because when I was younger, that confidence came from alcohol and drugs. So on a night out, I felt always that I needed alcohol and drugs to approach women, especially. Um, I mean, I think that the majority of my early or my the majority of my teens and my early adulthood, I don't remember having sex not on alcohol or drugs, which is kind of wild to be honest. So I think I think I got a lot of confidence through external substances, and then when I gave up that, it was a big process of learning who I was and my self identity and gaining that self confidence through my actions rather than external substances. So
Wow.
that was a big change, you know, to
Yeah,
find that.
that's massive. And like, if you're listening to this, like, think about this. Like, and it's British culture. You know, a lot of 18 to, well, even younger than that, 16 to 24-year olds, especially, I'm 30, gosh, I'm 36 now. And a lot of my age gap, my age group, we started drinking when we were 14, 15. And like, you didn't really, and like the same kind of age, you started having sex, the start of, when you started coming to relationships and stuff. And I think there's this, like, was it Dutch courage, they
Yeah,
called it,
yeah, yeah.
but you don't really learn how to really like woo your partner sober. And so you've gone traveling, you've come back, you've found out that you've got this natural innate wisdom and confidence, and you've started to trust that. What's the next step then? Because like there's still that part of you that's you were still working in. I think you were working in sales, weren't you? If I
Yeah,
remember.
so this is another changing point. So I'm in Australia now. I've lost all of this weight. I'm coming to the end of my journey in Australia. I was at a pivotal point of my life because my dad was passing away at that time, and I was on like another student visa in Australia, so I couldn't continue that. So I took the decision to go home, be closer to my dad, spend the last few months with him, and now I'm coming back to England, and I'm a completely different person, but I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So I wanted to work out. Okay, I'm now fit. I want to continue to use my body. I want to continue to travel, and I wanted to find like-minded people. That was one of my key things. I wanted to find people who want to become the best version of themselves, especially in their mindset, because losing all that physical weight, that got me onto the mental side of things. How, okay, if you've lost all of this weight, you can't be the same person who's stuffing your face with chocolate and sweets at night. So it's a whole mindset shift. So what did I stumble upon? I went home and I thought, okay, all of these criteria, I think I'll join the Marines. So I so I decided I'd join the Royal Marines in England. And yeah, I trained with
I genuinely didn't think you were going to say the Marines then. I was like, oh yeah, maybe he's going to be a yoga coach, or
no,
but
no.
no,
So,
yeah.
so I went from club crawl to joining the Marines. I did all of the training to get in there, and then I joined, and I spent I think about 6 months with them. And while I was there, I realised this certainly wasn't for me because I mean the first 2 days of training, my dad died, so I had to leave there, go to his funeral, and then straight back into training. So I didn't really give myself that time to process any of that and really just put it all away, all of those emotions, and straight back into training. But I mean, when I was in the Marines, I realised it wasn't the way that I wanted to live. It was very much programming you to follow the line, and if you don't, you're in trouble. And personally, for me, it didn't align with my values to go and fight someone else's war that I didn't believe in. So,
Yeah,
um,
me too, man. Me too. I didn't actually take the hit. I didn't join, but I filled in the form, and then I had the
yeah.
same realization. But yeah, that's a
Yeah, I
powerful
think
message.
one of the key points was everyone would decorate their bunk bed with pictures of family and like a flag or whatever, and you got all of these lads with their Celtic flags or They were West Ham flags or whatever, right? You've got me in the corner with my multicoloured Buddha on it. The sergeant's coming around going, Tremaine, how many drugs are you taking in your life? And I was like, a few, sergeant. So yeah, 6 months there, and I decided to quit, leave my job, or leave there. And at that time, they was all saying, "You're never going to find another job in this climate." And I was like, "Okay, I think I'll take my chances." Quit that job, and within a few weeks, I'd found myself a job as an estate agent. So now I've gone from Marines to selling houses in London, and
Were you
and
good
then
at it?
was I good at selling houses? I was
Yeah,
amazing at it. Yeah, amazing at it.
really. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
say, yeah. So what made you great at selling houses?
I just love sales. To be honest with you, I like talking to people. I love talking to people and that energy. And it's not really about the selling of the product. I mean, that's great at the end, but it's that feeling and that vibration. I always used to get it when we were selling club crawls and on the stand on the street, like that back and forth and that energy transfer when you're talking to someone and you're feeling them and they're like, yeah, and then they're getting excited about it, and then they're happy with what they bought. And I think I just kind of moved that over from selling club crawls to selling houses, and I was doing amazing at it for a year and a half. But once again, I've now fallen back into that 9 to 5. I'm in that box, and um, I remember my boss telling me to sit down. What do you want from life? You must have goals. You must want to get your house on the mortgage. You must want to get the car on finance. You must want to have the girlfriend and this and that and that. And I'd fallen back into the box. I'm working 9 to 5. I've got a girlfriend that um, we didn't really have much in common, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was just work, go home, and then I got back into smoking weed at that time as well, and drinking occasionally. And
Wow, how interesting! Like just from an environment point of view, it's like you've gone out, and this is what I think. Like, James is a phenomenal coach, and I can see why. Is that you've got so much experience, man? Like you've been in so many places, and you'll understand so many people's pain because you've actually got empathy. You've been through it. I found this in body transformation. I'd never been overweight, really, and it was
mm,
hard for me to empathize with someone that was like 5 stone overweight. And but you've actually done a lot of these, you've done the job search. Like I'm really lucky. I've been a transformational coach since I was 16. I haven't known anything else, and I'm
yeah,
okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. But you can see that you. But the other observation is that what do you think the because like there's the habit and the environment part of going back to those behaviors. But what do you think in your gut was gnawing away at you and making
ah,
you?
yeah. Well, there was this gnawing. This thing in my stomach, or there was a second voice saying to me, the same voice that I mean, there's that positive, negative voice, but the same voice that was telling me tomorrow I'll start. There was this other voice saying like, "You're meant for more than this. You're meant to do more." Um, and I knew that, but the money was great. The money was getting paid well from the commissions I was selling, and didn't have many outgoings. I had a girlfriend at the time, so on paper, from what you would look at through friends at home, it's all good, right? I've got a good job, I've got a girlfriend, I'm doing all right for myself, but something was just not feeling right. And actually, that led me on to, I was physically healthy. I was in a physically healthy body from the outside, super lean, like carrying 0% body fat. But at that point, after leaving the Marines, I went back and I said to my mum, I'm gonna be smoking weed, by the way." And that was just the process of hiding the feelings that I didn't deal with when I was in the Marines with my dad dying.
Right.
And yeah, during that process, I wasn't speaking to anyone. I wasn't speaking to my friends. I wasn't speaking to my family. So I was living back at home with my parents at this point. So it felt like I'd been transported back to being 16 again. And I'm in their house and I'm not speaking to anyone. So for months, I wasn't speaking to anyone. I wasn't speaking to my family, friends. And actually ended up getting an illness where I had a lump on the inside of my lip, but this lump wouldn't go down. It wouldn't go down for months and months. And I didn't tell anyone. I wasn't going to go to the doctors either because I don't believe too much in that. And yeah, and then when like 6 months down the line, it just wouldn't go. And then one day I'm on the sofa and I'm high as a kite on my day off, and something popped into my mind: thoughts create illness. And I was like, okay, where have I learned that before? And I YouTubed in it, said Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'd read his book 2 years ago. I don't know if you've read it. Have you read his book, Becoming
You are,
Supernatural?
yeah, you are the placebo and becoming
Yeah. So
supernaturally there.
I'd read the Becoming Supernatural 2 years ago, but when I read it, I was like, this is about out there, to be honest with you. I was like, I don't really fully believe it. And then, so I've just put it away. I didn't really think of anything of it. And then this one day I'm high as a kite on my sofa and something pops to mind: thoughts create illness. I YouTube it, Joe Dispenza. I was like, okay. So I read his book again, started doing his meditation, started meditating. That's when I ended up manifesting a trip to Ibiza. I took a trip over to Ibiza and ended up meeting our good friend over here, Danny. And then I ended up doing a mushroom ceremony here. And I was still an estate agent at the time, but I was seeking that something more. So when I came here, I did the ceremony with Danny. That opened up so many things for me. I realized that I was an energetic being having an energetic experience, and it was all about love and communication. And what I'd realized in that process was that I'd manifested this illness because I wasn't speaking and being authentically myself. So my body had to manifest a lump in my lip to tell me that there was some imbalance. And literally got home, told my girlfriend about it, told my parents, and then 2 weeks later this lump had just disappeared and gone. And I was like, okay, what the fuck? So now I had this personal experience of how my thoughts can create illness in reality. And yeah, from that mushroom ceremony, I quit my job once again and left to go traveling one more time.
Wow. Yeah, because that's a big shift, right? And then where did the breath work come into it? Because when I watch your videos, so by the way, we'll put James's Instagram handle and his Facebook handle in the comments for this episode. Is it you're very very good at that.
Yeah,
You're not boring. You've got a really good energy. You're very very articulate with the breath. Where did that come in then? Because like
yeah,
because it sounds like the sledgehammer, the trip, the mushroom ceremony, Danny's experience, which is amazing. The hero's journey. That's I've been on that experience. It's phenomenal. I just cried for like 4 hours.
yeah, yeah,
I was just in a ball, just crying and just crying and processing. But the that sounds like the sledgehammer. But then where did the breath come in? Because breath is working with the breath
yeah.
is something that you're really
So,
good at. So when did you have that
so
thought?
when I quit my job, the most recent time as the estate agent after the ceremony with Danny, I was like, I didn't know what it was, but whatever I'd experienced with him, I was like, I need to jump all in on whatever this is. I didn't know what this was, but I was like, I need to jump all in on it. So I quit my job again. 3 months later, I'd left to go to Mexico this time. There was a lot of lessons with communication as well with my partner at the time. But anyway, synchronicities led me to living in two separate pyramids. So one pyramid was in Central America in Guatemala, and Danny told me about this pyramid actually, and it's a metaphysical school where they teach you lucid dreaming was the main one, and that reminded me of the dream I had. I was like, okay, I thought I was crazy for all these years. Let's go here, and I went there, and she taught us all about lucid dreaming, and part of this or added extra to this course was this breath work, and it was a 5-day psychological detox. And the detox process was using the breath to cleanse out the energetic channels within the body of any stored trauma on a cellular level, bring it up to the surface and transmute it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go try this out with her. And she said to me, it's a super powerful breathing exercise, and some people pass out and have these DMT experiences, and I thought to myself, I won't. I was like, I'm a strong man. I've not passed. I've done a lot of drugs, and I've never been in a place where I hadn't really been able to control myself. So I was thinking the breath ain't going to do nothing to me, right? So there's me thinking super confident, yeah, let's do it. So we start doing these breathing exercises, run round, hold the breath, lock it in, and boom, I passed out. And
Wow,
I came
wow,
around. Once I come around, I looked her in the eye. I was like, "Where am I? And what was that?" And then I said to her, "I said to her, do you know how many drugs I've done in my life?" And nothing was like that. I said, well, all of the drugs that I'd done in my life, I was trying to find this feeling, and this breath work gave me the feeling and the sense of feeling at home. So I said to her, "Wherever you learnt that, I need to learn it." And she told me about another pyramid in Thailand, and she told me about this guy. He does chakra yoga and breath work, and then what I had been learning about chakras and energy systems with my own experience with my lip being in that position, that was a blocked throat chakra. And then I ended up flying to Thailand to go live and train with him for 9 months. And then that's
wow.
where he taught us all everything to do with breath work, everything to do with yoga.
Right, God, because when I've watched you, I'm like, this guy's done. Because I was trying to work it out in the time frame. Because I remember, we've talked a few times, and I was like, how have you got that good that quickly? But you went and immersed yourself in that, right?
Oh yeah, well, don't do things half-heartedly, mate. If I've got an idea or I'm doing it, I'm jumping in, you know. So
Yeah,
um,
that was what
yeah,
I was going to ask you. Is like because it seems that that's kind of a way you live your life. Is you just you're very courageous. You take action. You go all in.
yeah.
And is that something you've always been able to do? Or is that something that you've just become progressively better at doing?
Yeah, I think progressively better at doing. I think it started when I was with that one leap of faith in when I first left, and then from that, it's just been a case of well, every time I've made these strong decisions and believed in it, and taken the leap, then the universe conspires to help you out, and all of these motivational books and all of these powerful books that you read from the early 1900s, like Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill, and all of these people, they all speak about a strong burning desire and an action to go and do it. And uh, when I look at other people, and even me in the past, it's whenever I've delayed or waited, things don't seem to work out. So there's this intuition, and that's that gut feeling of, okay, this feels right, this doesn't. And every time I've said this feels right and gone with it, it's worked out. But every time I've gone against that feeling, it doesn't seem to work out. So it's been a case of, yeah, trusting and learning, to be honest.
Yeah, man, I love that. I believe that you're going to go to the top of the coaching world, James. I really do. I can see that in you because you're able to do that, and you can see if you listen to this podcast, is that I think the reason this story is so great is that you were like a non-believer. You were kind of like almost like your ordinary guy living an ordinary life,
I was
and
so
then
the
you,
opposite. I was the
yeah,
opposite. Yeah.
and then now that you can see that it's not just a believer that you've got an understanding. You've actually had the understanding from practice with other people and an implicit understanding in how you've actually used this stuff as well. Magical, magical. Okay, so now you've started to use breath in your own practice and you started working with other people. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Like, what were what are the changes that you've started to see in the people that you've coached and you've worked with? Because I think this is really important.
Wow, it's amazing. So working with others, the I love getting these little text messages to say, you know, I'm working with a DJ at the moment, and obviously that kind of clientele, all you're doing is surrounded by drugs and alcohol, and uh, and that's for me, I think, would be one of the hardest industries to remain sober in. So to to get messages from people saying, I'm now 3 weeks without alcohol and I feel strong, and I'm not getting any of these cravings, and I'm looking better and I'm feeling better and everything's flowing more. It's just to see the changes, because that just brings me back then to what how I remember it. So the longer it goes from my initial transformation, it now feels like obviously being a fit and healthy person is just a normal thing. So to see other people go through that process just fills me with joy. And then to work with them, and it's not just that physical transformation, it's also the transformation in their own mind of their self-image. So that's what I found, especially in my journey, was I became fit and healthy, but it took me another year or so to really feel like a healthy person, because still in my mind I was this fat person. So it's like helping people, guiding them through their own process and helping them speed it up, really, because it took me a long time to figure out on my own. But it's just amazing to get those messages and to really see people transform physically, mentally, and then evolve on their own journey and their own path of what they want to do, you know.
Yeah, because well, it's taken you 10 years, and you get people to bypass that, and that's why you probably getting some great results. Because I think with coaching, especially in my book, you're paying for one of three things: speed, ease, and certainty. So if you're listening to this and you wanted to start using the breath or lucid dreaming or transform your body, the reason that you'd hire James is you don't want to take 10 years, you want to take 10 weeks. It's just
Yeah.
like, the ease part is that they don't have to travel to Mexico and Guatemala, and the easy, they can do it from their own living room or office chair or whatever, just having a call with you. And then the certainty, I think having a guide, I think you have guides at different part of your journey. Having a guide on your journey, because it's not easy. I can attest to this. I've always had a guide. I've always had a coach, and recently I was, getting coached around just even conflict in my relationship. I've been coached around my finances. I've been coached around my business, and having someone like, if you listen to this podcast and you heard James talking about, like, you're looking to go on a hero's journey, get yourself a guide. It's really important. Who've been some of your most influential guides as you've gone through this process, James?
So I had many people who I would always come back to with regards to like podcasts, because I didn't get a coach until after I'd gotten fit, actually. So it was a couple of years into that until I got my first coach. But people people who helped me, I mean, David Goggins was a big one, for sure. Joe Rogan. Um, yeah, there's a lot of really powerful videos and people like that who helped me to fortify my mindset. A lot of books, a lot of stoicism, a lot of philosophy, a lot of all of these discipline. Discipline was a big part as well, and routine. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of people along the way. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That 'cause I love it how you actually have a guide that was your coach. You actually just used what was available out there. That's resourceful as well. So what do you help people with now? Like, who do you work with, and like, how can people find you? So let's just go and kind of go with, like, who do you think that you can do the most magic with when it comes to someone who's struggling?
So the people that I can do the most work with are someone who knows, or who really wants to change their body and their mind and their spirit. So they're probably well off and they're doing well in their own life, but they know that they need to tweak things to um, help really make them move forward. So that'll be someone who's knows that they're out of shape, but they need to change, or they're struggling with anxiety or stress or burnout from work or whatnot. And even people who may feel like they're struggling in a position in life, whether they need to make a big change in life, whether it be for work or physical or mental. So they're the kind of people I'm working with at the moment. But it's what I do is, it's not just your normal transformation. So it's not, if you want a personal trainer, I say just go get a personal trainer if you want to do that. But I'm a holistic transformational coach, so that combines everything that I've learned throughout this process. So the physical side of things, diet, nutrition, exercise, all the way through to mindset, cultivating and fortifying that positive mindset. And then on the spiritual side is really connecting back to their soul's calling. We all have this reason that we're here. And I think once people learn what that calling is and that purpose is, then we can help them get onto that path and from experience, it helps to have a healthy body and a healthy mindset before you can start to really work out what is that path for you, you know. So it combines the spiritual, but not the woo woo spiritual, as in like you experience it yourself. I can give you everyone the information, but ultimately it's your own experience which is going to guide you through your own path, you know.
Yeah, because I think that what you've got is that um, so many people have tried the gym, so many people have tried the just doing mindset. Some people might have even tried meditating. But what I can see that you've really gone through that hero's journey yourself, and now you're helping and guiding people do it the same. And
Yeah.
you see pictures of James on the internet, and now you see him sat there in a glorious sunshine on a rooftop in Ibiza with loads of women, just kind of listening, probably hanging on you every word, James. Um, but you can see that you are really just in your craft, aren't you? That's like you at your best. And then the other thing is, like, James and I had a conversation a while ago, and um, we just agreed on the conversation and said, "Hey, man, just go and take some action." And then we just came up with some things that James could go and do. And I have those kind of conversations with a lot of people. I have those conversations with people. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go and give it a try. And James came back to me and he said, "I've messaged 1,600 people," and I was like, I think that one of the things that your practice and the practice you help other people with is that there must be some level of confidence and courage that comes from that, meaning that they are able to take massive action in their lives. Do you get what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
That isn't normal. That's on the outside of normal. So I think if you're listening to this, one of the things that I think you can definitely get from James is, like, you're going to have that, what I call self reassurance. And it's something I can see in James, and I can see it in the way that he creates his life and he creates his transformations and his clients. They end up with massive amounts of self reassurance. Like, I'm going to be okay. I've got this. I can deal with the stress. And that's definitely going to be from working with the breath, right?
100%. Yeah, the breath's the key to a lot of it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So James, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed listening to your story. I think this is a phenomenal story because there's so many parts of this that different people can resonate with, and I think you should tell it as often as possible because it's really, really inspirational. Where can people find you and follow you and find out about your services?
So yeah, I'm on Instagram. Instagram is retrain underscore with underscore Tremaine. YouTube, retrain with Tremaine. Twitter, retrain with Tremaine. Facebook, James Tremaine. And in my website, retrainwithtremaine.com.
Awesome. So what we'll do is we'll make sure we post them in the links to this podcast. I endorse James; he's a phenomenal coach. And if you're inspired by the podcast, reach out to him honestly, because sometimes we do these podcasts and we do them to share our story because it's helpful to kind of go through our stories. But the reason we did this today is that you might be listening to this and you might resonate with a part of your story where James was, and just reach out to him and share just what he's inspired you with today. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you,
Thanks.
James.
Cheers, mate.